How come you moved into something like this?
One of the things, if I could say, is about continuous improvement.
What made you go into ONGC?
A lot of people ask me, that sounds crazy in today's terms. But I quickly realized that's not where my love is. Of course, problem solving is something that excites me even today.
What made you move into something like Coca-Cola?
But at that time, it really appealed to me.
What were the real challenges in expanding that market presence?
They will say that their job is actually about changing the world.
Now you move into heritage.
The brand.
While milk stays as the mainstay brand.
That's when actually people could afford better lifestyle.
That's where the money is.
The way we deal with our farmers, when we say empower farmers, we really mean it. So here is a business.
Obviously, people would have a taste for things.
Yeah, absolutely, that's happening.
What was the mandate that you had?
A few days back, I read an article. The article was about the power of gut instinct.
How is it selling in India?
Consumers are going to reject it. And what that brand does to you.
How do you differentiate yourself?
That's how my story got into business management.
Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochatul. Selling milk is a century-old idea, or maybe even older than that. We Indians have got milk from the traditional sources. Most homes in the good old days had their own cows, which we used to milk and then consume for the household. But as times grew, that has become more commercial. At one time, India did not have enough milk. We used to import milk powder from the US, and those were the early days. But then Operation Flood came along. A legend like Varghese Kurian came along, brought in a brand like Amul through a cooperative system, and built up what is today's India's biggest ecosystem in milk and milk products. Subsequently, many private companies have got into the fray. All of them are doing well, and some of them are doing exceedingly well. And today I have with me a gentleman who can talk us through how this industry is doing, how his company is doing, and of course, where does it go from here? Srideep Kesavan, CEO of Heritage Foods, a person who can speak to us about milk and milk products. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Suresh. Great to be on your show.
Thank you, sir. An engineer, and then XLRI. How come you moved into something like this?
It's a very interesting question. In fact, an engineer and MBA combination is not very rare in Indian scenario. But I can probably talk about my personal story. I was always interested in business. And during my days in engineering, myself and my friends, we used to look for business opportunities, and basically in those days it was to make some extra pocket money. And we used to run businesses. And one of the businesses that we used to run were running ice cream stalls during Onam festival. So that's something that was always in me. And during my days at engineering also, I always had the inclination to take up leadership positions. I was head of several cultural and student organizations, and had the opportunity to organize a lot of things, and that was something that always in me. And I worked as a practicing engineer with ONGC for about 3.5 years.
Yeah, that's where my question comes in next. I'll stop you here. Sorry for interrupting you there, because instrumentation and electronics.
Yes.
Okay. And a very straight career path would have taken you to something like an industry which is there with that. You went to ONGC, and what made you go into ONGC?
Oh, that's again is a very strange question, because in today's time it's very difficult to fathom the kind of choices that we must have made about 30 years ago. We had in those days two large streams, you can say, in engineering. One was the fast evolving but still smaller size of business, which is the entire software technology evolving space. And the second was the old fashioned or old school engineering space where you deal with physical machines and stuff like that. And this is something that it's hard-coded in my DNA. Even today, I'm someone who's really used to doing things with my own hands. I really like the touch and feel of things, and that gives me a certain amount of satisfaction in the things I do, and that's probably what made my choice very easy. So I would have preferred to be in a field where I could deal with machines rather than deal with abstract stuff like software, probably. So in fact, when I finished college, I had two jobs. One was to work for a software company, and the other was to work for ONGC. And I chose to work with ONGC. And today, a lot of people ask me, like, that sounds crazy in today's terms. But at that time, it really appealed to me.
But it was a secure job, a PSU job. A typical Indian mentality would tell you not to leave that and risk it for a private sector. But you did. Okay. What made you move into something like Coca-Cola?
When I got into, I really loved what we were doing at ONGC. Some of the things I learned at ONGC is still so deeply ingrained in me that I bring it to work every single day. Such as if I could talk about, let's say, thinking from first principles. At ONGC, I was part of the maintenance team. I was part of maintaining the electronics systems that they have, and they had in those days like total PLC-driven, automated, very highly advanced systems they used to have, and I used to work in offshore, which is about 200 kilometers from
Bombay High.
Yeah, I was in Bombay High South. So you're there for 14 days, and then you're sent home for 14 days. And 14 days when you're there, you work 24 hours. You're on call anytime. And some of those things are really enjoyed. When you have a problem in the middle of the night, you have to think from first principles and get to a solution very fast. And that's something that I still bring to work even today. But I quickly realized that's not where my love is. Of course, problem solving is something that excites me even today. But that's only a part of the thing that I enjoy. The bigger part of the story that I really loved right from college times and even before that is about creating value. It's about the whole business itself, right, and end-to-end running an enterprise. And problem solving is only a part of it, which is why I realized that, maybe 1 or 2 years into the job that, this is not my cup of tea, or I would rather do something else. That's how my story got into business management.
So if you'd been in Coke, typically, that would be selling sugared water. Okay, as famous as John Scully's job offer from, Steve Jobs saying, do you want to sell sugar water all your life? Of course, he was in Pepsi. But in your case, it was different. You didn't really sell sugared water, but you sold something more healthy, which is dairy products. And more importantly, you didn't just sell them in India. You went to even Africa. Gabon, correct me if I'm wrong. What was one, Coke selling dairy within a Coke, within that ecosystem? And second is, how is it selling in India? And looking back, do you feel, I don't know whether to say Coke made a mistake or Coke didn't get enough opportunity to exploit that opportunity?
No, Suresh, if I could just correct some of the facts. I worked with Coca-Cola for 15 years, in fact, actually, in two different stints. The first stint was 6.5 years, and the second stint was nine plus years. So it's actually 15 plus years that I worked with
That's
Coca-Cola.
very long, actually.
Yeah, it was very long time that I spent with the company. The largest part of those two stints was spent selling sugar water.
Okay.
Yeah, it was only the last stint where I was vice president and head of stills business, where I was responsible for juices and dairy. I understood your question, but if I could just roll back.
Yeah, I'll just take you through the route now. Now that I understood where you're coming from in terms of your career there. Bottling plants, bottlers is what Coca-Cola's mainstay is in terms of selling, I will correct myself, in selling their aerated drinks. Whereas the other part would be dairy products, which is a different ballgame altogether. When you read those classics of Coke, battled with Pepsi and others in selling this in India, the Thumbs Up, which were early boys here, the Campa-Cola, which were even earlier than that. When you look at the entire ecosystem, when you joined Coke, What were the real challenges in expanding that market presence?
Right. See, Coca-Cola, I'm no longer associated with
I know that.
Coca-Cola, but still it's something like, it's a place where I spent 15 years of my life, and I feel it's a wonderful business, actually. And with specific reference to the remark you made about John Scully and Steve Jobs' conversation, I believe if you ask anyone who worked at Coca-Cola or who still work at Coca-Cola, they will say that their job is actually about changing the world. They don't. I don't think that even one person at Coca-Cola would say that they sell sugar water, because the idea of Coca-Cola is more about the brand and what that brand does to you as a consumer, and how they enrich your life rather than the physical product itself. The physical product is actually something that justifies a proposition, if I may say, which is about building happiness, sharing happiness, bringing people together, etc. The experience I had actually at Coca-Cola was quite varied. I spent many years working with the bottlers. My first many years were with Hindustan Coca-Cola. Then I worked on the franchise leadership side, which was actually building business for one part of the country. And then later on, I was head of brands on the juices and still side. What some of the principles that you learn from Coca-Cola is something that every business manager should learn, if I could say. One of the things, if I could say, is about continuous improvement and continuously learning the business. If you imagine, Coca-Cola today is about 139 years old. That only the company and few, let's say, history students would know.
Correct.
If you ask any consumer, if you ask any teenager, they would probably think that it's a brand of their era, which was launched just yesterday. And the life cycle of a consumer in Coca-Cola system is about 6 to 7 years. And at Coke, there's a very clear, what they call it as a consumer journey. Yeah, they recruit you young, usually in a carbonated beverage segment, and then by the time you are at about 21, 22 and all of that, you're moving on to the next segment, which is usually juices and nectars. And we were trying to build dairy segment as the segment which will come even after that. Let's say, for example, somebody who's 25 years plus, who's looking at serious health issues, alternatives, health beverages, would probably migrate into a dairy space kind of thing. So the approach to building business from Coca-Cola is more from a total beverage solution. From what can the company offer to the consumer throughout the life cycle of the consumer, from teen to, let's say, middle age or whatever, and the way they are able to reinvent the business every 5, 6, 7 years to keep that brand young is something which I have learned, and I continue to use even after I left Coke.
One question, of course, I'm here to talk more about heritage, but we'll come to the second part of it later. But there was one classic error of judgment, if you can call it that way, was the creation of Classic Coke, saying that let's kill the main brand.
New Coke, even.
Yeah, the new Coke, okay, and the classic one came later. The new Coke, then of course there was a big hue and cry saying, no, we want the old darling back, and the company had to bring it back. When you're talking, because this is a business channel, and when you're talking, and a lot of people who watch you or going to watch you are going to be business people, are going to be entrepreneurs, are going to be startups, who will realize that it is better not to tinker with something that is not broken. Looking back, I know you were not involved in that decision and all. It must have been taken at very high level in Atlanta, but still, what would you say about it?
Just a few days back, I read an article on LinkedIn, or was it shared by somebody, and the article was about the power of gut instinct, right? The power of gut instinct is something that comes with experience. It comes with years and years of repository of knowledge in your mind, which you cannot even articulate. You just know, right? I think these kind of decisions happen when you solely rely on data And data probably would tell you, it would probably give you numbers, and numbers don't always tell the story, right? And as a leader, one has to marry numbers and data with insights and instincts which you have inside you. That's the most important learning, if you ask me. And if you have that, you would know that the brand you love is not a brand you love because of the physical characteristics of the brand, but it goes much, much, much more beyond that. So if you just compare the physical characteristics and say that I'm going to build something which is actually tasting better or superior or whatever, but it moves away from the brand idea as a whole, consumers are going to reject it.
But as we move along, I mean, as you rightly pointed out, when you moved on to the health sector, I mean, what happens today is that a person like me or at this age, we wouldn't like to drink that stuff. We would, as you said, move to more healthy options that are there.
Right.
Now, when you look at the international beverages scene, I can say, we put it very, very broadly. Do you think there's a shift from products like sugared water into healthy alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. That's happening. Like I said, see, there are many reasons for that, right? One is there's a growing felt need for healthier options. People are getting, I can give you specific examples, if I may. About 7 years ago, there was a study that was, at that time I was working for Coca-Cola. We had access to certain data points which said that fewer than one out of 10 people knew about the protein requirement or daily protein requirement per person, for an adult. Or even lesser percentage of people knew about what probiotics are. But that's not at all the case today. Today, if you look around and if you speak, and the same numbers, if I were to run through a market research, they would tell me that probably it stands at 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, which means that the awareness and the need for better for you and healthier products are much more compared to earlier times. The second aspect is the discretionary spending. Discretionary spends are growing. As your wealth grows, today India's per capita stands at about $2,500. We are actually on a cusp of, you can say, an inflection point. As you go beyond this, as your basic needs are met, you have more money for discretionary spends. That's when actually people could afford better lifestyle. And better lifestyle naturally comes not just with indulgence, but with better for you products or something that enhances your lifestyle, increases your lifespan, improves your health, etc. Which is primarily the reason why we are seeing accelerating trends towards healthier products.
This brings me to the point, 2021, halfway through this conversation, now you move into heritage. At that time when you possibly moved, it would have been a 29-year-old brand, I guess. It's 33 right now, if I'm not wrong. When you moved it, milk is milk. And I've been having this conversation with numerous private sector dairy producers. You ask Varghese Kurian, he will have a different logic altogether. But when you speak from your perspective, while milk stays as a mainstay brand, of course, milk today has various connotations in that. You have skimmed, you have whole milk, and you have toned milk, and every kind of stuff. You have, ones we don't need refrigeration as a Tetra Pak and all that. But building up milk, I think, it contributes to about 30% of your total business, if I'm not wrong. When you took over in 2021, what was the mandate that you had?
So when I joined Heritage, that was the time we were still in the second or third bout of COVID, right? As in the company, I'm sure that all businesses were hit during COVID time, sure. and the company's growth trajectory had slowed down in those COVID years. So the mandate was very clear. The mandate was to build growth, build aggressive growth, and build profitable growth. And that's one reason why that excited me. There were many other reasons that excited me as well when I joined Heritage. See, for those who are looking at either buying into a business or joining a business, one of the most important things that is important is what is the purpose or what is the reason why that business exists, and the reason why Heritage Foods existed, or the mission or the purpose of the company, is something that inspired me beyond reason, which is, even today we call it our purpose statement, which is actually, there are two parts to it. The first is delight every home with fresh and healthy products and empower the farmer. So there are two parts to it. One is the consumer part, one is the farmer part, and it is very clear why this vision and mission is the way it is. If you spoke just now, Suresh, about the growing trends towards healthy products, right? What better way than to join a company which actually puts out in its mission statement that it actually wants to not just serve healthier products, but it wants to delight consumers. Delight is when consumers say that, wow, when you consume a product. And that's where we create value at Heritage. If we cannot create value by delighting consumers, we wouldn't have created enough to empower the farmer the way we want to do. So here is a business which has a very social purpose at heart, which is empowering the farmer, but working in a value creation model just like any commercial enterprise. That's the meeting of two worlds, which is fascinating. So that's something, coupled with a mandate to aggressively drive growth, and that to profitable growth, is something really up my alley.
When you come to a private sector company like yours, of course, that would be classified as a PSU kind of approach, so to speak, or very broadly.
Sorry.
But when you're speaking about Heritage as a brand, very well known in the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh and, of course, today's Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, or the Telugu-speaking states. But over a time, you grew. I've seen the product in Kerala also, where I originally hailed from.
Oh, thank you.
But more importantly is the fact that milk products and the milk byproducts, the value-added products, if we can call it that way, is where the moolah comes in from. That's where the money is. But there are far too many products in the market. Maybe 5, 6 major brands in the market. How do you differentiate yourself?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. If we are not able to create value for the consumer, that's where I started. The first part of the mission statement is actually delight every household or delight every home with fresh and healthy products. Now, if you're not able to create that delight, we will be a brand that's forgotten. And the reason why we have been so successful in the Telugu states, as you spoke just now, is because we were able to create value for the consumers of these states. We have a business model, the seed of the business model, and see, when I joined the business, like you said, it was already 29 years old. It was a fantastic business. So I had the opportunity of standing on the shoulders of giants, right? The business was built meticulously on fundamental certain principles which are never compromised in this company. One, I'll speak about some of the principles. One set of principles that deal with the farmers, which is, let's say, for example, the way we deal with our farmers. When we say empower farmers, we really mean it. So the way we, let's say, for example, enrich the life of our producer farmers is no different than the way it'll be done by a farmer cooperative. For example, in fact, actually, we have to go an extra mile to make sure that the farmers partner with us. And when I go and visit many of the field operations, I come across second generation and third generation farmers who've been pouring milk to us for decades now. This happens because of certain principles that we stuck to. First, being fair and transparent with the farmer in terms of our pricing model, in terms of the price we pay, in terms of the way we measure the products. For example, when a farmer pours milk to us, the accuracy in the manner in which we measure the milk and compensate the farmer, and instantly he's able to get a slip from us, tells us how much money is owed to him, how much milk he has poured, etc. The fair and transparent manner in which we deal with a farmer is something that the farmers really love in a very nebulous environment that we operate. The second one is about timely payment. We pay farmers 3 times. And you imagine a farmer who depends on agricultural revenue, which happens, let's say, once or twice in a year. You look at the cash flow that runs the household. Dairy is the cash flow which runs the household for the farmer. Dairy money comes as far as if they work with heritage. Every 10th day, 11th, 21st and 31st, the money will be there in their bank because we directly credit it into a bank of the farmer. The money that we credit into a bank is what runs the household, not the money that comes once in 6 months or 12 months from their agricultural income, right? So it is a very, and the farmers rather partner with a dependable company like Heritage, where you don't even have to worry. If there is 11th of the month, the money will be in the bank account. Not where you have to wait and money is not paid for 1 month or 2 months and all of that. The third is the extension and inputs activities that we work with. We try to help farmers improve the breeds of the animal, the productivity of the animal. We sell feed, concentrated feed at a subsidized price. We have got close to 24 veterinarians. We treat close to about 10,000 animals, or we reach 10,000 farmers, benefit 10,000 farmers free of cost every month. So this kind of stuff is something that is a plus as far as the farmers are concerned. We've got a app that we run called Vet Plus app, which reaches more than 100,000 daily active users. Through the Vet Plus app, we disseminate information about balanced nutrition. We disseminate information about disease control, about even, like for example, the latest feature that we added is about lightning advisory. So that the farmer, the animals are grazing, and then if there is a lightning in this, then we are able to advise the farmers. The farmers daily use it to see how they can benefit. So this is a very principled approach on the farm side. The same principled approach we follow on the consumer side also. It starts with quality. We are so obsessed with the quality that we run continuously there is no single day that goes by where we do not have one consumer test or the other happening in our company. As we speak now, there are 2 consumer tests happening, one in Delhi and one in Bangalore as we speak now.
Okay.
So this is a continuous process for us. It is not something that we do fancily once in a while just to satisfy ourselves, because we are continuously trying to improve our product. And we compare ourselves with the best of the best. If we are not able to create that delta in terms of the delight for the consumer, then I will not be able to hold the consumer loyal to us, right? That's what you are talking about. The second thing is our approach to business building is also, we start with the category itself before even talking about heritage. If I can just give an example. One of our biggest value-added product is curd. While we are trying to build curd as a business, the curd as a category is still largely unorganized or homemade.
Correct.
Not more than 20% of curd that is consumed is actually purchased in packaged form. So unless we break the barriers of that and we make consumers comfortable with buying packaged curd, if you're not able to get that into a first step, only after that comes the consideration set of buying heritage or XYZ brand, right? So we at Heritage, we rather than just work on building our brand, we are working on building the category.
That's true.
Okay, so we take it a level above and a level below as well. Now, after the category building happens, then we look at how many occasions can we create. Is it possible that you can eat curd 3 times a day? How many times do you eat curd a day?
Twice, that's it.
Yeah, so can I add one more occasion for you? So that's how we think of business at Heritage. And if we do it diligently over the years, I believe that we can conquer any market.
I think it's also the fact that with the changing age group of people, like husband and wife working, everybody's busy, nobody has time to set the curd. And that is where I think the game of buying it from a supermarket or from a next neighborhood store comes in. But you made a very important point during the conversation that you were speaking in the last 5 minutes, which is basically that the second and third generation are also getting into milk farming. Now, my worry, I mean, I don't know, you're an expert, you're doing the business, and I ask this question to other people who are in this business too, is what we're seeing in agriculture, broad-based agriculture, not just milk farm, is that the next generation is not interested. They don't see a remunerative income in that, rather than sticking with a safe IT job in Telugu-speaking states. That's what they look at. Why should the next generation of youngsters or even a new entrepreneur get into this field of producing milk?
Right. So, see, dairy is something that has tremendous headroom for growth. Right. So that's one primary reason. Number one, I guess your viewers already know that India is the largest dairy producer in the world. India produces about 1/4 of all dairy that gets produced in the world. We produce about 240 million tons of dairy, right? But it is still produced by the number of producers that are there are still too many or large. We have about 8 crore dairy farmers as of today. Fast forward another 20 or 30 years, there may not be so many producers. You're right. Right. So we may not. So maybe the number of producers might shrink a bit, and it's not just unique to dairy. It's across the agricultural spectrum, right? And this is because of migration towards urban areas, urbanization. It's towards taking up more, let's say, for example, white-collar jobs, etc. But the people who are remaining to be in the agricultural space are becoming more and more productive. And we are seeing this very, very obviously in our space as well, right? Maybe you roll back 10 years, an animal used to produce 5 or 6 liters per day. And today, those same animals are producing 8 or 10 liters. In fact, in many of our regions, we have animals that produce 12 or 13 or 14 liters per day. And that's improving, which means that a dairy producer who used to produce 8 or 10 liters per day will now produce 14 or 15 liters per day,
Is it to do with the animal or is it to do with the feed that goes in?
It is to do with everything. Yeah, it is to start with the breed of the animal. Actually, there is a lot of access to higher quality breeds. Like at Heritage also, we also help our farmers access to better quality of breed when they do insemination. So we do a lot of AI for our farmers, artificial insemination. And the government is also doing a lot in terms of improving the breed. That's one. But of course, it is also to do with practices. You see, traditionally in the farms, when an animal is not producing, let's say when an animal is not producing, usually the animal is pregnant with a calf. Usually because the animal is not producing, the farmer would not feed properly or would not give enough proteins and nutrition to the animal. What does it result in? When the animal
finally comes
delivers and starts lactating, the quality of milk is poor.
Right.
Through the work like I spoke about Vet Plus and many other things through which we disseminate information. Now farmers, the awareness, knowledge is increasing so much, and we continuously do outreach camps in reaching out to these farmers. And with all of this, the farm practices are improving, the feed qualities are improving. All of this is driving productivity. And when productivity becomes double, you need only half the number of people to produce the same milk that you require. And this will happen.
Ice cream, big business, especially an impulse purchase, if you can call it that way. Heritage is setting up a big facility, or rather in the throes of setting it up. 700 crores, if I'm not mistaken, is the revenue stream from that. Can you just take us through that part?
Thank you. Yes, we have, last year, we announced our the investment of CapEx into a new greenfield facility, building an ice cream factory. The reason why we got into that is because our current facility is run out of capacity, so we have maxed out, right? Currently, we do about 100 crores of annualized revenue of ice creams. The business has got tremendous potential. We see an opportunity to build a business of up to 500 crores in the next 6 to 7 years. That's tremendous. You don't have so many businesses that are available, business opportunities that are available to you, where you can actually grow it 5x in 6 years or something, right? 6 or 7 years maybe. So that's the opportunity that we see in ice creams. Multiple reasons. One, I believe I previously spoke about the discretionary spends and how that wallet is growing. And with more discretionary spends, the consumer spends will happen in 2 segments. One is good for you, better for you kind of thing, what enhances the life, what enriches life. But also on the other side, you will see people will spend more and more on luxury items or indulgence items where people want to have a good time. And hence, segments and categories like ice creams are bound to grow. And at this point in time, most of our ice cream business is concentrated in the Telugu-speaking states. But our fresh business, whether it is milk curd or any of the other value-added products, are expanding beyond this footprint, and we are going to more and more geographies. So it's just a natural addition to have this as part of our portfolio. That's the reason why we are getting into it.
Wonderful, because I have seen that the ice cream products have, of course, start, as we rightly say, from plain vanilla to the box stuff, which is like costs more money, but people are willing to spend more to eat that stuff. But coming down to the financials, debt-free company now, that is a very unique thing in Indian companies, that you become debt-free. But do you think when you look at expansion, when you look at new business streams, enough money to churn around?
Again, the company turned debt-free in 2021. That was about 4 years ago, and that was I think that was the right strategic decision at that point in time. I'll just take you back some 30 odd years, right? Look at the history of how this company was built, and this is actually a textbook. I was not here. I just joined the company.
Business case study.
This is actually a textbook business case for startup founders of today. The company was founded in 1992. The mission statement that I just spoke about was articulated at that time, that we're going to delight our consumers and we're going to empower the farmers. And that's like, two legs of the business, and that's how we make. That is how the value creation happens in this business. This was determined almost 33 years ago. And the company got, and it was also decided at that time that it will be a very highly principled company, ethically run, socially conscious, socially motivated, etc. And because of these very same reasons, the company got listed in 1994. And you can imagine in 1994 the kind of capital markets that was available in the country.
Very basic.
Very basic. So the valuations and all of that must have been. So the company went through only one round of capital raising at that time. And with tremendous fiscal and financial discipline, the company was built in a purely bootstrap fashion. Every year, the kind of profits that gets generated in the business is what is plowed back into building growth for the future. And in year one, the revenue of the company was just 4 crores. Fast forward 33 years, the company is generating a revenue of 4,000 crores. Wow. So can you just imagine the 1,000 crore kind of revenue growth has been achieved with fiscal discipline, right? So it's not just about cost consciousness and frugality, which is actually part and parcel of this business. In milk business, you have to watch literally every paise in the business. In English, as they say, watch your pennies. Here we literally look at every paise of the business. That's one part of it, which is the operating part of it. But even in terms of capital allocation, we're extremely conscious and extremely prudent in terms of disciplined in terms of where we allocate the capital. And the decision or strategic decision to get into a debt-free status was an outcome of that. But subsequently, in the last couple of years, the business has been growing at a tremendous pace, right? In the last 4 years, we have grown at a CAGR of 14.5%. And here, the growth drivers are primarily on the value-added products, and the value-added products are growing upwards of 20%. And when you have a business which is growing upwards of 20%, 3-4 years, you're running out of capacity. You have actually literally doubled your business, right? So we are now selectively, but with fiscal discipline, with very clear financial discipline, we are taking on debt, a leverage which is in a very calculated manner to expand. For example, whether it is our ice cream business that we are looking at. So we are looking at debt in a very disciplined manner. Financial discipline is something which is very central to the way we run our business.
The future, the roadmap ahead. I'm not asking you to crystal gaze into 25 years, let's say 5 to 10 years.
So heritage is going to be a business to watch out for. Yeah, if I could just start from how big the industry is. See, dairy industry in India, like I already told you, 240 million tons is already one of the biggest industries that is there. If I take just the commercial side of the business, it is about 11.5 to 12 lakh crores. It is bigger than anything you can imagine. Whether it is rice and wheat put together or steel and coal put together, it's nothing compared to the dairy industry, right? It's about 5% of GDP. But out of this 12 lakh crore, only about 4.5 lakh crore is organized business. Okay. The rest is still unorganized, and you could say fly-by-night operators and all of that. So, and which is the reason why the organized businesses, 4.5 lakh crores, is aggressively growing, right? Because it's not just that the 12 lakh crore is growing, but within that, conversion from unorganized to organized is happening, which is accelerating the growth of this. Within the 4.5 lakh crores, only half of that is cooperatives, which means the rest half of it are private players like Heritage. But you can count the number of known brands in the private sector in your fingertips.
Correct.
Which means actually there is all likelihood of consolidation happening on the private side. Fast forward a certain number of years, there will be fewer and fewer number of private players that will exist in the country, and Heritage is bound to be among them because we have existed for 33 years. We've become younger, but 33 years we're going to grow stronger.
Okay.
So that is going to be the future state, if I could just portray that.
So somebody listening to this would say that Heritage is prowling around looking at takeovers in the days to come or the years to come.
Sure. Let me, if that was your closing statement, I would like to add a comment to that. It need not happen through acquisitions alone. It could happen because some of the smaller companies wind up operation because it is unviable for them to fight with the larger entities. And we are taking more and more consumers. Consumers are also switching from smaller, unknown brands into better brands which deliver highest quality.
Srideep Kesavan, wonderful speaking to you. I'm sure that you should be speaking at business colleges and addressing people in, say, T-Hub or wherever it is, that about what business is all about. Because dairy business, as they say, can't be closed down today and say, okay, we'll take a week's break. The milk has to be milked every day. The cows are to be milked every day. The buffaloes are to be milked every day. And this is a business that goes on. And I'm sure that as we go along and people learn about this business, and I'm sure this conversation was kind of a eye-opener for many people who don't understand how this industry works. It's a 24/7 industry. And thank you for speaking to us. It was wonderful. Thank you, sir.
It was really enjoyable talking with you. Thank you for the opportunity, Suresh.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Srideep Kesavan, CEO of Heritage Foods, a company that is now 33 years young, growing by leaps and bounds, setting out its basic principles of keeping the consumers and the farmers happy and prosperous. At the same time, ensuring that their products go up the value chain, deliver more than what is promised. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.